Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me 320 SimPilot, and today another exciting first look and unboxing video for you. This is the Turtle Beach Velocity 1 Flight, Yoke and Throttle Quadrant. They call it the Universal Flight Control System for Microsoft Flight Simulator. It contains the full throttle quadrant and the yoke, as well as some other nice features, a little display, a trim wheel. We'll talk about them as we go through. It's compatible with PC and Xbox. I'll be using it on PC as I don't have an Xbox that can run Microsoft Flight Simulator. And it is a really interesting idea. It has a lot of controls. There's a lot to talk about today. So we're going to unbox it, have a go with the controls, and have a look at the software and simulator side of things just in this first look. And then we'll look in more detail later on. It retails for £349.99p, so just under £350, which is quite expensive, but you do get quite a lot in this package. It has a lot of controls, a lot of customizing, which is really quite nice to see. So I'm particularly excited about this one. I was very much looking forward to having a go with it. It has been very kindly sent over by Turtle Beach. So these are all my own thoughts. There's no script or anything like that, but it was sent over for review by Turtle Beach. So thank you to them for sending it over. So here we go then with the sort of standard unboxing. It is a big box, but it does contain quite a lot of parts. You've obviously got the yoke and the throttle quadrant, as well as those extra throttle controls, which we'll see later on in the video. So throughout the video, we're going to have a play with all of the controls. I'll show you what they all do, and I'll give you my impressions on how they feel from my perspective as a real-world pilot and a real-world airline pilot, of course. So here we go, egg crate sort of containers, no polystyrene in sight, which I was really pleased about. So yeah, I always like it when it comes in sort of recyclable material. And out it comes. In here we have all the parts, so you can use this. You don't even need additional rudder pedals. It does have sort of trigger controls for that, which we'll see later on. And you get this little pouch, which has the quick start booklet, as well as some stickers, which you can use for customizing the controls. So out of the box, it comes with a set of buttons which are sort of blank, and then you can use these stickers, these white stickers here, to put on them once they are assigned. Now, I'm not totally set on how I'm going to assign them yet, so I haven't fitted them. But yeah, look at that, all those different options. So you assign it in the simulator, and then you put that sticker on there to remind you. These black ones are used for the status indicator panel, another unique feature of this control setup, which we'll look at a bit later. But this is to show that you have these stickers where you can customize which warning lights will be shown on that status indicator panel. It's a bit like a caution warning panel. So that's something we'll see later on. It does not currently work, the status indicator panel. We're waiting for Microsoft to update the simulator for it to work. So Turtle Beach have promised it's coming, but for now it does not work. That's important to point out, but I will be really excited if it does, because that will be an amazing feature. You also get included this quick start poster. Now, I usually don't bother too much with these sort of very simple quick start guides, but I've got to say this poster is excellent. It's double-sided and it contains so much information, and I'd be willing to say that if you've never flown an airplane in Microsoft Flight Simulator before, you could follow this poster and you'd probably get it into the air. They've done a fantastic job. The reason is this side, as you can see, contains all of the control bindings, and it even shows you at the bottom the very buttons you'll need to press to get the airplane in the air. This side is the first side. It shows you the hardware setup, a bit of the software setup, and what all the controls actually do to the airplane. Really, really great, really simple, really nicely written. And it's been something I've had to keep referring to in order to see the control bindings, because this does come, as I said, in Microsoft Flight Simulator with controls assigned. And that is so handy because it makes your life a lot easier than having to sit there and assign every single button. And all you have to do is follow the poster and it will tell you where you're looking. And they've made some really good choices. This is that second status indicator panel where you would attach those black stickers, and then you could choose which warning lights you want to become available on that panel. Again, not working currently. This is the throttle quadrant coming out of its packaging. So this comes as a separate unit. You don't need to have it connected to the yoke. It gets its signal through a cable which plugs in through to the yoke from the quadrant. So if you wanted to set this up further away or in a different position, lower down or anything like that, you have that option, which is really nice. As you can see, it comes out of the box with the 4 airliner style controllers, or handles I should say. So you've got your 4, this looks a bit like a jumbo jet sort of throttle Boeing style throttle levers, and down here we have TPM vernier controls, which I didn't know they were called that, but this is the Cessna style of control, which I really like. I'm actually a big fan of the Cessna controls for general aviation, and to have them included here is really unique. This is the trim wheel, which we're going to look at later. As I said, all of these controls I'll be going through and giving you my impressions on a bit later, but yeah, trim wheel included on this sort of throttle quadrant. That button doesn't do anything, it's just to connect it to the yoke if you want to use that, which is how I have it set up, as you'll see later. So now the yoke comes out the box, the biggest part obviously, with that fairly big back part to it. Now that's of course required for a yoke. It is a full size yoke, you know, it's a really great size. It feels absolutely great in the hand. And here we go, 180 degrees of motion each way, which is all you're going to expect to get out of it. There's a hat switch on each side, as well as shoulder buttons and trigger buttons, which is all very nice. And they all feel very reasonable, all very, you know, made of plastic, but all feel absolutely fine. And that's the status indicator panel, which again, doesn't work at the moment, but can eventually, hopefully, show us warnings and lights from the simulator. That would be a really great feature if it worked. Some nice quality here. We have a soft touch on this thumb rest, which is just even better than most airplanes have. So I was really pleased with that. Yeah, really, really nice feeling yoke, and it's really ergonomic. Feels really nice in the hands. I think they've done a great job with it. The pitch motion, so the forward and backwards, is nice. It's not very damped in roll. Not unusual for a controller of this price. It doesn't have much damping. I wouldn't really expect it to, but the pitch does have some nice feel to it and a nice bit of weight. The roll feels absolutely fine. It just doesn't have any damping when you let go. Not something you're going to be doing much anyway. This is the Allen key for adjusting the feet, which will then, or not feet really, the clamps underneath that will attach it to the desk. So that's hidden away there nicely. Great feature to have that, because otherwise it's so easy to lose it. But yeah, we'll talk about the mounting system in a minute. These are the alternative handles that come in the box. So you can fit those instead of those white Boeing style handles. You can fit those to the top and have a sort of Piper style or any general aviation style airplane prop and mixture or speed brake lever. These are the feet then. So these actually, using that Allen key we saw earlier, you unscrew it and these pop down and they're clamps, and then you can fit it to your desk like this. Very simple and super handy to have that key just stowed in the top of the yoke, because it makes it so quick and easy to disassemble this and take it off the desk, which is really useful to me because I don't use my desk permanently as a simulator. I need it for editing videos as well. So really, really quick and easy. These are the included cables, which are great. They're cloth sort of braided cables. They feel very nice. A USB-C to USB-C, which plugs your throttle quadrant into the yoke, and then a USB-C to USB-A, which plugs you into your computer. So just one normal USB-A style connector needed at your computer, which is great for so many controls. I was very pleased with that because I was worried it would be USB-C to USB-C or something, but no, very simple. Blue backlighting by default, and you have to change it to an input mode of PC. If you're using it on PC, it came out of the box as Xbox by default. So yeah, you can choose your input mode, must be set to the right one. And then you've got this great little flight management display, which lets you adjust your profile, use a training mode. So here's the training mode. This is another really great feature, and another strength of this product is how easy it is for people who are brand new to Flight Simulator. Here you see you just press the button and it tells you what it does, and this works for every button on the yoke and the throttle as well. So you press it and it will tell you what it's going to do. You move the hat switch, it tells you exactly what that changes. So impressed, and such a great idea to have that displayed on that little screen. What a simple and ingenious solution to helping with something that's so famously difficult in simulators, which is the controls. We can also change the colors, so of course, great fun. I set it straight away to the neon pink of the channel, and I'm sure that'll be a popular color just because it looks so great. Anyway, on the hardware. But you do have a whole range of colors if you want something a little more subtle or more aviation themed. We have this sort of green, which is more military style. Lots of aircraft do use that for the backlighting, which looks very nice, very sharp. It came out of the box as blue. Probably the most normal would be a orangey or a light yellow color like this, which is what the older style Airbus backlighting looks like on the Airbus anyway. But again, you could have it as red or whatever you fancy. It looks really nice. That status indicator panel behind the yoke is currently set. I've got it set to match the ambient lighting, but eventually we'll hopefully be able to, as I say, light up with the master warnings and so on, which would be just amazing. These buttons here work like your Xbox menu, so you can pause the simulator using these, which is quite a nice little bonus. I hadn't really expected that. So yeah, lots of nice controls like that included. We get two hat switches, which is great. So you've got a hat switch on both sides of the yoke, and then these second sort of not quite hat switches, but these little four-way clickers. Then you've got the triggers, which replicate the shoulder buttons on an Xbox controller. So these are useful for, or they're currently by default assigned to be rudder pedals, these big triggers here. But I don't use them as that because I've got proper pedals set up. I think if you're going to have a yoke like this, I think pedals would be really good, but you do have those triggers there already assigned if you don't, so that will help you out if you're just starting out or you're using this on the Xbox. And here's that range of motion. So it's it's really nice how many controls you get just on the Yoke alone. You've got those two hat switches plus the extra hat switches plus those little white buttons you can see, which are used to sort of change view or reset your view. Moving on then, looking at the throttle quadrant levers. So these are the top ones. You can see I've changed the far left one to be a speed brake lever, which was included. But these are quite light, as you can see. So there's no problem when you're using them, but if you want to tap them into position, not that you would, they can fall, as you can see. So they are quite loose on the friction. Turtle Beach say this is so you can get a sort of more precise use of them, because if they were too high on friction, you could find it maybe a little bit trickier to adjust. I don't know. I'm a fan of higher friction levels on throttles, so I always, whenever I have an adjustable one, I always set it to quite a high friction. But yeah, these, as you can see here, when you actually use them properly with your hands on them, no problem at all. They don't move on their own. They stay in their position, which is very good, and hopefully stays that way. And you've got the same here on the speed brake lever. Works absolutely fine. They have this little click at the bottom where they sort of click into an off position. As far as I can tell, that isn't a switch or a button, but I wait to be corrected on that. I haven't been able to assign it to anything yet, but I'll have to have a bit more of an experiment as time goes on. So you've got a sort of a click off position, as it were, at the bottom, and then a smooth range of motion above that. So no detents at all here. These are entirely a linear scale. You move up and down, and they do feel very nice. You've got nice little handles there to use, and they are very customizable. As we saw, you could adjust the handles to be sort of your general aviation. But I'm really excited about these. I haven't seen these before in hardware that, well, I haven't had hardware that's had these before. Cessna style, they call them TPM vernier controls. I didn't know that's what they were called, but yeah, really nice. I like these. I'm a big fan of this control system. There's no button on the end that works or anything like that. They do just literally slide in and out, but they've got a really nice resistance level on them. Really smooth. I mean, really smooth and really easy to use. I'm a big fan of these. I think using a throttle like this is actually very easy to adjust and figure out how much you've set. Whereas these, although it's easy when you're looking at that style of throttle, it's slightly harder when you've just got your hand on them. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this push style, because you can, with your finger, you can feel how far out you've got the throttle at any moment. But that's just entirely personal preference. I'm not saying one is actually better than the other. But to have both included on this controller is really impressive and not something I had expected. So really, really, really good fun, and makes it great for flying Cessnas. These buttons then don't have any stickers on at the moment, but they came in the box, as we saw earlier, those white stickers. You put them on that button when you know what you want it to be assigned to. So there are default assignments, as we talked about earlier, in the profiles, but your choice what you want to use it for. So you could change those in Microsoft Flight Simulator to whichever you fancy. But I'm pretty impressed with the ones they provided. They've given me all the main controls I would expect to have, so I'm pretty close to using the default assignments anyway. But I want to be sure before I put the stickers on, obviously. And then you have lit up buttons, which is just great, all labeled. So very pleased with those. You can see the light goes out when you press down, and obviously they change to the ambient color that you've set the whole thing to. Something to note though is if you have these set to the off position like that, because you're going to use the Cessna style controls, you actually find that the buttons slightly get hidden. So I'm tempted to leave them up more to keep them out of the way, even though it's slightly against what the instructions suggest. This is the trim wheel now, and I've got to say this is so impressive. It feels absolutely amazing. Turtle Beach are very proud of this, and I can see why. It feels really smooth. It's good size. It just has great friction to it, so it's not light at all. It's got quite a smooth, firm sort of feel to it, and as you can see, it doesn't rock or roll or anything like that on its own. It's great. Really nice job. Incredibly close to the one you get in a Cessna 152. I was so impressed. So this is a really nice set of controls, and that trim wheel is great. As you can see, another problem with having these in the off position is that you'll end up knocking the speed brake lever in particular. So another reason I find to actually leave them up there and then use the other controls. But yeah, really great. That trim wheel is such a great little feature. It makes it great fun. And I handed this to another pilot, real world pilot, and they immediately said the same thing. They were very impressed with that trim wheel. So that is a really nice touch, and something, again, I haven't had in my hardware at home before. Onto the flight management display then, and as you can see, we can change the input mode and the profiles. So if we change the profile, it currently has two, single engine prop and twin engine jet. Now, of course, we want to have more profiles than that, so I'm hoping we'll see more arrive in the future, but I don't know if that's the case. But anyway, now I've changed it. You can see at the top it says twin engine jet, so it was on single engine prop, now we're on twin engine jet, and that therefore just slightly shifts around which axes are assigned and so on. But it's important that you go into Microsoft Flight Simulator like this, and then you must go to the Velocity 1 Flight and there's two sections for it. Although this one shows you the picture for everything, it only does the yoke, and this one only does the quadrant, and you must change both of these to twin engine jet. As you can see underneath, it's got twin engine jet and not single engine prop. So you have to change it on the yoke and then in both of those sections of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Those profiles are not customizable, but you can duplicate them and then customize them entirely as you wish, of course. And now it's working as a twin engine jet. I've got my two middle throttles by default assigned to be the engine 1 and 2, which work separately and work really nicely. And then I've got a flap lever for the axis number 4. So that's the only thing I would have liked to have seen, would be a little flap lever handle included for that fourth sort of throttle axis, because that's often used for flaps in both single engine piston and the dual engine jet. But there we go. Parking brake is assigned according to that poster, and the speed brake handle works here just as it should. And it's great that they've given us a speed brake handle included in the simulator. So there we go. That's the citation longitude up into the air. Yeah, all very nice. No problem at all. I'll say it again, the yoke is a really nice shape and size. It does match quite nicely with flying these aircraft, and yeah, they've really nailed the size and the feel of the handles. Very pleased with that. Here we go now, using it in a Cessna, which is my favourite sort of config for it because it's so good at replicating the Cessna 152. As you can see, the axes on the roll doesn't quite line up with the simulator, but I've actually left it at the default sensitivity curves because I think they've done a good job tuning it. It just doesn't quite match the picture on the screen. Not really a problem at all, of course. In pitch, it's much more one-to-one sort of ratio. But in terms of actually flying it, it feels really good. So they've done a great job there. As you can see, the hat switch on the left does sort of free look, and the one on the right does quick look. Then you can use that left white button on the left side of the yoke to change to the outside view, and then you can reset your view with the little white button on the right side of the yoke. So they've really thought about this, because a reset view button is often overlooked, and it's so important to flight simulators to be able to just snap the view back to looking forwards. And yeah, there you go. You press that little white button, and then you're back in the cockpit, and then you press the other one to reset the view. Really nice. And again, that's all default profiling. So I've been really pleased with that, and I'm seeing as this is a whole new control setup for me, I'm trying to see if I can just live with the defaults. Just a couple of things I might swap around. Here's that Cessna style throttle working, really great, looks great in the sim and feels great in your hands. This could be particularly good in VR, flying a Cessna around or something like that, because you've got it all at your fingertips. And then of course your mixture. No prop control in this airplane, of course, but I have tried it in airplanes with prop RPM control, and yep, of course the blue lever works just fine for that. I say lever, it's not really lever, I don't know what it's called, but the blue control. So away we go. Please ignore my flying. I'm trying to do it one-handed whilst filming here, but just to show you what it looks like in the simulator. You'll know what a Cessna takeoff looks like, but here we go. As I said, rudder is available on the triggers if you wanted to use that, but I'll be using the rudder pedals that I already have. And away we go into the air. And as I said, that roll axis feels really nice, even if it doesn't quite match up with what's on the screen. It gives you, yeah, just a really reasonable level of control. Here's the trim wheel. Trim wheel is ever so slightly oversensitive, so I might try and see if I can tone it down, make it slightly less sensitive around the middle. But no problem at all. It's very usable. You just don't have to move it as much as you do in the real aircraft, in my experience anyway. But as you can see there, moving directly with that trim wheel, and it just feels so great. Such a nice control to use. Of course, modern aircraft or more expensive aircraft have electronic trims on the yoke, which you could assign to that little silver button below the hat switch. So you've got so much flexibility here, but having that trim wheel is great fun. Most general aviation aircraft will have a trim wheel somewhere, even if they have the electronic option fitted. A lot of airliners have one as well. Even the Airbus has an actual trim wheel. 737, of course, has a trim wheel. So very common thing to have. So great to have that back up there. Could be useful for simulating failures and so on later on down the line. We'll see how we end up. But there we go. So yeah, absolutely love it. And I love having the ability to have all these different controls assigned and at your fingertips. I just really hope that status indicator panel behind the yoke comes to life one day in the future, because that will be a real game changer. But for now, it does not. But there we go. Yeah, a terrible bit of rolling and looping around the sky here. So what are my thoughts then on the Turtle Beach Velocity 1 flight? Well, this is their first controller for flight simulators, and I'm really impressed with lots of different parts of this controller. It is a serious investment at £350 or just under £350. It is no doubt something that you need to consider seriously, and it contains a lot of different control options for that money, as well as some unique features with that trim wheel, the flight management display on the Yoke, which I hope to see more use made of in the future, as well as the sheer number of controls you get. You've got the Cessna style controls, the airliner style controls, you've got all the hat switches in the right place. But another really unique part of this is how well set up it is out of the box for Flight Simulator. The fact that you can just plug it in, set the right profile, and then just follow that poster and it will tell you everything you need to know. All the buttons are already assigned. I was really impressed with that, and I've got to say that's something I'd like to see a lot of controllers come with in the future. But there we go. So Turtle Beach said that they built this product based around 4 pillars, which were being realistic, universal, accessible, and customizable. So the question is, have they achieved that with this controller? Well, again, this is only first impressions, but in terms of realism, I think it feels great. The Yoke is a good shape and size. It's made of plastic, so I want to set expectations here. I know some people get upset when controls they pay a lot of money for and they come in, they're made of plastic, but to me it's fine as long as it's good quality. I don't mind, because aircraft controls nearly always are made of plastic. You don't find much metal in airplanes that you're going to touch, because of course everything has to be as light as possible. So I think in terms of realism, it's a great shape, it's a great size, and the controls feel really nice. I talked about how the pitch is nice, but the roll is ever so slightly lighter in terms of dampening. Again, nothing that I wouldn't have expected, to be honest with you, even at this price point. That's you're looking a lot higher than that if you want to get dampened controls. So I think realism, yes. The trim wheel, they've definitely got that sorted. And as I said, the Cessna style controls, I'm a real fan of those. So I think they've done a great job on that side of things. Universal, meaning presumably that they want it to be compatible with so many different things. I think they've done a fantastic job at as well, of course, because by giving us so many axes and controls, you can assign this to whatever you want. But that's going to need to be tested over time. I'll need to try it out with lots of different aircraft. The question will be, can I make this work with the CRJ? Can I make it work with the BAE 146? Because that's where I see these 4 throttles being useful. In the upcoming Just Flight BAE 146, we could have all 4 throttles assigned, or maybe the fly-by-wire Airbus. Although not having detents does limit the ability to use this throttle quadrant for the Airbus. You still can, of course, but you'll need to set them and know where those detents are, or find a way around it. So that's something to be considered for those of you primarily looking to fly the Airbus. But of course, a Yoke is not necessarily the traditional Airbus way of doing things anyway. But if we look at other aircraft, such as your Boeing, your 787, flying the those jets, the business jets, or in particular flying those piston or propeller aircraft, it offers you so many different control options. So I think they've done a good job, but remains to be seen as we go through it in the future. Accessible, yes, this is one of the most accessible controls I've seen out of the box, to come with so many of the presets, so well loaded up, so well thought out. The buttons are in the right place, they make sense, and it's unusual for me not to be constantly changing all the controls from the default straight away, but I've been very impressed with that so far, and that poster guide really does help with that. And customizable, of course. Well, they give you the handles. As I said, I want to see a flat lever handle available at some point. I think that would be really nice to have, but that's pretty nitpicky considering how many controls they do give you. But finally, the things I'm really looking forward to seeing improve would be that status indicator panel. If they can get the warning lights working, that would be amazing and really unique. Also, the screen on the Yoke, I think that screen could be utilized for more things than it is at the moment. At the moment, you can have it set to be a stopwatch, you can have it set to be a trainer, or you can have it to just select your profiles. And hopefully we'll see more profiles arrive in the future for your control setup. But what I would really like to see on there is what else is possible. Can we see moving maps on there? Could we have different sort of indicators and displays? It's a common area for checklists to be. So could we have checklists that we could cycle through and tick off? How great would that be? Or maybe we could have charts on there. There's so many options, and I would be really excited to see if any of those could come in the future. Of course, for now, they are not there. There's no promise that they'll ever come, but those are just some ideas. It's a great little piece of potential having that screen there, I think. A great little idea. So that's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. As I said, just a sort of first unboxing and impressions. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to see with this Yoke, and also I'll be doing some more work with it as I try it out and set it up with some other airplanes and simulators. There'll be plenty more guides and Airbus videos and tutorials on the channel, as well as live streams coming soon, so do please subscribe if you'd like to see more of those. Otherwise, we'll see you again in another of those videos or live streams. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.